We're really close to wrapping up the final season of The Bad Batch, with just a few more episodes before it's all over. A lot of fans might be dismayed to find our heroine, Omega, trapped in this secretive Mount Tantis facility. Not only do the Bad Batch have no idea where the hell this facility is located, they've also had to team up with the disgraced Vice Admiral Edmund Rampart, making an already difficult rescue mission even more chaotic. But here's the thing, the Empire actually made a mistake. Well, it's a mistake they keep on making. They grossly underestimate who Omega is and what she is capable of. And that's why they've placed her in a vault right in the middle of their secret facility next to some of the most important projects in the entire Empire. And I didn't realize how stupid this was until I was reminded of another sci-fi franchise I really like. You see, a lot of people are comparing the vault on Mount Tantis to the prison on Narkina 5 from Andor. Yes, aesthetically, these two prisons look very similar. You have your circular shape, the white sterile panels, the constant monitoring by Imperial officials. Heck, Omega even has an Andor moment when she pops open one of the panels looking for a way out. But it's just aesthetic. Sometimes Star Wars rhymes, but there's no deeper message behind that rhyme. The Narkina 5 prison is built during a very different era in the Empire and for a very different reason from the vault on Mount Tantis. Instead, the vault inside of Mount Tantis reminds me of one of my favorite shows, Stranger Things. Now, if you guys are Millennial or Generation X and you have not seen Stranger Things, I'd highly recommend you check it out. It has like the vibe of the Goonies and it has tons of 80s pop culture references. And it's just a really well-made show, especially if you have kids. I mean, it's a great way to connect your kids to the culture you grew up with. Anyway, I digress. In the show, we visit the Hawkins National Laboratory, where the MK Ultra program is being carried out. That's that very real program that was actually orchestrated by the CIA in the 60s and 70s. There's a creepy white room where all these kids are being tested on because of a perceived special power they might have. There's even a little stand-in for Omega named 11. And guess what? The baddies who experimented on her underestimated just how powerful and dangerous she was. And she accidentally unleashes the true monster hiding in that facility, a man named Henry, by removing an inhibitor chip from his neck. I mean, that's really the problem with these evil scientist types, right? They often lack basic humanity, and because they don't respect their fellow humans or attempt to understand their needs and desires, and instead see them as objects to be used.
Dr. Carr, limit your personal interactions with the specimens. They are scientific assets, nothing more.
And so, of course, they're always stunned when their specimens start fighting back against them and trying to escape. And I have a feeling that Dr. Hemlock is about to be stunned by Omega in the most dramatic fashion. Especially if we take a look at the earlier seasons, there are tons of clues and callbacks that I think we're gonna see pop up once again in the final 2 episodes. Now, before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor for today's video, ownersaber.com. They have an awesome new deal for you guys. If you buy one of their Master lightsabers, you can get a second one for free. Just make sure both Master sabers have the same soundboard. Also, don't forget to check out the Brick Saber bundle, the perfect display piece for the Star Wars Lego fan. It comes with a scabbard and a display stand, both free. For more information about these offers, check out the description down below. If you're not interested in the buy one get one free deal, use our code TECH, all caps, for an additional 20% off. And so what happens at the Hawkins laboratory with MK Ultra, I think the same thing is going to happen on Mount Tantis, although in a very different way. Omega is not dangerous in the same way 11 is. I doubt she will turn into a super powerful Force entity who can ragdoll troopers against a wall like Darth Vader. Instead, her powers have always been critical thinking and emotional intelligence. These are much less fantastical superpowers to have, but they are a lot more practical and useful, especially post Order 66. Most of the Jedi in the galaxy by this time are running scared or hiding in a hole. Omega's abilities have been on display the entire series. Her critical thinking and strategic mind makes her excellent at board games and games of strategy, a skill that Omega uses on a few occasions to make some credits. Omega is also an extremely empathetic person. She knows how to connect with people and endear herself to them. And I say this in the most positive way. She's not manipulating people necessarily. She is just truly a nice person to be around. And more importantly, she really goes out of her way to notice things about other people that most people wouldn't see, which further endears her to them. It was her ability to understand how the Bad Batch felt that made them look after her in the first place. I mean, remember when Omega sits down at the cafeteria with Clone Force 99 and immediately instigates a food fight alongside them?
I like this kid!
No one ever stood up for the Bad Batch, and you could tell by their body language and their actions that they're moved by Omega. And this is definitely a skill that she will rely on during her next escape. So if Omega were a D&D build, she would be like a charisma intelligence build. That's not really a tank or a frontline melee fighter kind of material, but they're the type of individual who's able to negotiate their way out of problems or create a lot of allies who can do the fighting for them. Which is why Omega is such a good fit for the Bad Batch. There are good soldiers, and then there are good managers, and oftentimes those are not the same people. The Bad Batch was a deadly commando unit, a weapon that in the right hands could be extremely deadly, but without purpose and guidance, they began to falter immediately after Order 66. Hunter, as deadly as he was on the battlefield, fails to really understand larger picture situations. And I can't really blame him. I mean, he was only trained for one thing, and that was killing things. Whether they realize it or not, because they decided to save Omega, the Bad Batch also saved themselves. Omega made the Bad Batch realize that they needed to do more than just to survive. They needed to create a safe space for this young child to grow up. Had they continued taking mercenary missions from Sid, I don't think they would have survived nearly as long as they had. That Trandoshan goes through bodies like a Russian penal battalion. And don't get me wrong, Omega benefits from this relationship. Not only is she getting whisked away from Kamino before things completely go to shit, she also is learning how to be a badass commando herself from some of the best in the biz. First, Hunter takes her on a scouting mission to show her how reconnaissance is done.
What are you doing?
Tracking.
Echo naturally teaches Omega the importance of drilling and practice.
You have to learn to tune out distractions, which comes with practice. Again.
Riker apparently is the explosive ordnance disposal guy on the team.
If you're so sure, here, disarm it.
Me? But I only watched you
10
run.
seconds till we're both goners.
In Tech, well, he teaches Omega the importance of understanding the battlefield and being prepared with all that information you need to make proper command decisions.
Does this unscheduled break mean you are fully versed in every ship in the Imperial fleet?
She also gets a new family of her choosing, which is what every little kid who doesn't have a family wants. And we see the lessons that Omega has learned from the Bad Batch are put to good use. Omega is not only a quick learner, she seems to enjoy a good challenge, a good puzzle. She even says so much when she's hatching her own plan with her own unit. A bunch of young Force sensitives in the vault. Omega goes from being the youngling in the Bad Batch to the leader of this small group.
Won't take them long to notice you're missing.
That's okay. I like a challenge.
You see that look? The cogs are spinning. Omega is scheming. And I think what she's thinking about is an earlier mission. Now, you guys remember this really random side thread in the Bad Batch second season? It was an episode titled Metamorphosis. Well, that episode started off almost like the movie Alien, with one clone commando trying to survive on a derelict ship. The monster on board of this vessel is no simple acid-gushing alien, though. This is a very different type of apex predator that is equally as dangerous, if not more. We are, of course, talking about the Zillow Beast. The Zillow Beast we see in Metamorphosis, at least in the beginning, is a juvenile one, but all you Clone Wars fans probably remember just how large and dangerous these animals can get. During the Clone Wars, during the Battle of Malstar, a Republic superweapon accidentally awoke in one of these beasts, and it almost took an entire legion to put it back to sleep. Now, instead of just getting rid of it, Palpatine was interested in weaponizing the gigantic creature's unique biology. It had scales which were impervious to almost all types of small arms and energy weapons. Even lightsabers really couldn't do much against it. And it could also grow to the size of a building within just a few days. And it could sustain itself solely on energy. The Zillow Beast would be taken back to Coruscant for more studying, but it would break free from containment, which would force the clone forces on the planet to kill it. This wasn't the end of the story for this poor beast, though, because Palpatine would clone it. This is why we see a Zillow Beast during the Metamorphosis episode. It is a clone of the original one found on Malstar, and clearly it has broken containment while being shipped. And the Empire kind of freaks out because the Zillow Beast would make it onto a planet and proceed to consume the energy grid there, creating even more hysteria amongst the local population. It would ultimately take 3 Venator-class Star Destroyers to pacify the Zillow Beast. I mean, this is one tough animal, and when the situation is finally handled, guess what happens to the villagers who saw the Zillow Beast? Well, they're taken away with the monster as well. The existence of the Zillow Beast is extremely, extremely top secret, which is why you want to hide it somewhere. And where do they take it? Well, Mount Tantis. If you take a look at the Wayland facility there's actually 2 buildings that we see. One that houses Project Necromancer and Omega, and I'm guessing the other one is holding a Zillow beast. You know, the Sith were famous in the old days for their gigantic dark side aligned monsters like the Leviathan. Palpatine was no different. He had this gigantic Summa Verminoff guarding Exegol, and he also has this invincible Zillow beast. Now, a lot of crazy dictators like to do this. I mean, have gigantic apex predators as pets, you know, like a lion or a tiger on a chain. It's the ultimate flex. But what we never really hear about is how often these big cats bite back and sometimes even kill their owners. Now, I'm not sure how Omega is going to harness the power and chaos of the Zillow Beast and turn it against the Empire. Perhaps that's where Hunter and his rescue team will come in, but I'm almost certain that they will need a Zillow Beast level threat to create enough of a distraction for Omega and the other children to make it out alive. They are literally in the center of this complex. There are so many layers of security. Omega is going to need a lot more than just crawling through a wall panel. And even if these small force sensitives are able to toss a few TK troopers around, they're still not like an elite commando team. They're gonna need a lot of help. We also have to remember that empathy that Omega always relies on to find friends in the most unlikely places has also affected Emery Carr. And Omega knows this because she saw that other little girl holding the doll that Emery Carr gave her once upon a time when she was trapped here earlier on in the season. Omega knows that Emery Carr can be trusted. And Emery Carr, well, she was actually the scientist who received the Zillow Beast when it first arrived on Mount Tantis. She definitely knows of its existence and might have a lot of access to the program, especially now that she is the chief scientist here. I'm almost certain that she will have a role to play in this scenario going forward. Either way, this is gonna be one hell of a climax. I mean, cinematically, I can totally see the top of Mount Tantis blowing up and then Zillow Beast coming out of the top of it or something crazy like that. We've only seen that the Zillow Beast can grow from electricity. We've never seen just how large they can get and if there's actually a limit to that growth. I also think the Empire will be a little hesitant to bring a quick reaction force to stop the Zillow Beast because this is a highly secretive base. They can't afford to bring 3 Venator-class Star Destroyers or clones or TK troopers to see that this facility exists. And I'm willing to bet that the Zillow Beast that's been trapped there for all that time has been sensing the massive reactors that probably power these gigantic laboratories. Yeah. I've said this quite a lot in the final season, but once again, I am very appreciative of how much thought and effort went into planning the show and how it just naturally flows from other animated Star Wars shows like the Clone Wars. You know, callbacks aren't always easy to do, but when you make callbacks like this with the Zillow Beast, or at least this is what I believe they're gonna do, and you see it go all the way back to the Clone Wars, it really is neat. It makes you feel kind of good that you spent all this time watching TV shows when you were a kid. There's actually a purpose to it all. We were rewarded for our efforts. And most importantly, it's a very natural fit, I think. It works very well. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about my theory. I guess we won't know for another few episodes. You know, if you're back here on May 4th or something after the finale, comment if I was right. Maybe I was.